Hello, and welcome to Talk the Walk. I'm Azam Khan. The China National Space Administration was founded over 25 years ago. Since then, it has made quantum leaps in progression, from a state-of-the-art manned space station to deep space exploration. The latest launch from the program was several weeks ago and took the Shenzhou 16 crew to Tiangong space station. One of the headline-grabbing aspects of the mission was that it was the first time a Chinese civilian was a part of it, a professor from a university in Beijing. With Beijing stating their plans to continue to grow the capabilities of their space adventures, just how far can it voyage in the coming years? And how significant will Hong Kong's research contributions be to it? Joining me today to break down the topic is Quentin Parker, an astrophysicist and professor in the Faculty of Science at the University of Hong Kong. He is also the director of its Laboratory for Space Research. Professor, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.
It's a pleasure.
I want to start with the Shenzhou 16 mission, and if you could share some of the more striking achievements that came from it, and what was particularly groundbreaking in your opinion.
Well, as you said yourself, the mission started just a few weeks ago. In fact, on May the 30th, it was launched on a Long March 2F rocket from the Joyquan Satellite Launch Center at the northwest of China. The couple of notable firsts, I think the one that doesn't get much attention is that the mission leader, Major General Jing Haipeng, it's actually his fourth time in space. Now, no Chinese taikonaut has ever been in space 4 times before, so that's actually a first. And of course, the other first, which is perhaps more significant, at least in terms of the amount of press attention, has been that it's the very first civilian taikonaut that's gone into space. Associate Professor Guo Hao Chao from Beijing University. He's on board as a payload specialist. And don't forget, these payload specialists are going to be more and more scientists. The National Mainland Space Program recently advertised for 2 payload specialists from my own city of Hong Kong and also Macau. So I'm hoping, within a few years, we might have our own Hong Kong born and bred taikonauts on board the Chinese space station. But, the mission has only just started. It'll be a 5 to 6 month mission. And it's the first time, like, all parts of the space station in its original configuration have now been put together with the Wentian and Mentian research modules, where most of the work will be done. Because the thing that people need to really appreciate is that the Chinese space station is really nothing more than a very large science laboratory. It's a really large science laboratory in space with special science modules now attached and cargo vessels and docking to take the taikonauts to and from the space station, etc. But it's going to be there primarily to do scientific research of all kinds in microgravity. And so this is really what the mission is about for the future. And it's an exciting program is there. I can tell you more about that later on in this discussion.
Right, and I read online that the Shenzhou means divine vessel, and the Tiangong, the space station, means heavenly palace. And then obviously the rockets are named after the Long March, which has a historical reference. So always keeping the beauty and the symbolism? Indeed,
I mean, divine vessel on the heavenly river is actually the full idea for Shenzhou. And the heavenly river, of course, in this sense, is the Milky Way. And so I actually love the way that China gives its major missions, whether they're in space or even on the ground, they give them meaningful names, culturally significant names. I don't think any other nation does that. And I think that's something that also sets China apart in this way too.
Right. Could you just share real quick, what is, for our audience, what is payload specialist? What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, payload specialist is somebody who's dedicated to looking after the various scientific payloads that are on board the space station. Now, don't forget that up till now, everybody that's gone up on as a taikonaut into space, and this is, don't forget, I think it's the 11th time, it's the 16th mission, but the 11th manned mission of Shenzhou. And before that, everybody was from the PLA, People's Liberation Army, in one form or another. But this is the first time a civilian's gone up. And I think this is the start of things to come. I think more and more, there'll be a lot more civilian-based taikonauts going onto the space station.
What's the significance of that?
Well, it's because you need to have the right expertise to operate the equipment properly. I mean, everybody else in the PLA, they're fighter pilots and they come from military background. They might occasionally have dabble in engineering, etc. But they're not the expert scientists, engineers, and technologists that have the skill set and the experience to look after what is incredibly expensive and very fragile at times and complicated and sophisticated scientific equipment. So you need to test it, calibrate it, use it, get the science, get the data. And if you're not a trained scientist in the scientific method, you don't understand these things properly, then you're not going to maximize the return from your investment in these scientific payloads. So you need a payload specialist who specializes in the right way, in the right things, with the right knowledge and the right experience.
Does it also reflect a sort of benchmark that the space program's achievements has been able to surpass by involving civilians as well into this process? Is that a difficult benchmark as well it's a testament, should I say, of the space program that they're able to do that? Mm.
I think this is the future. I think you're going to see this more and more. I mean, as I said, the Chinese space station, it's a great national endeavor of China. It's a superb piece of cutting edge equipment. It takes, I think, 6 to 8 hours to dock with the Chinese space station using their automated processes now, super efficient. It takes 16 to 18 hours to dock with the International Space Station. It only takes 6 to 8 with the Chinese space station. So there's a really big saving of the, Taikonauts not sitting around in their capsules for too long anymore. So I think that's really, really good. And it shows the way forward, I think. And with a civilian program now, as I said, they're already recruiting payload specialists from the civilian population of Hong Kong and Macau. They're already now just gone up to Beijing. About 10 of them have been selected from hundreds, well over 140 applicants went there, and already been triaged out to a very high level. So the very best of the best are left to go up to Beijing to train, and from those, a few Taikonauts will be ultimately selected. They're all civilians.
Right.
From academia, from industry, and from government agencies, but they're not from the military. And I think, this is showing the way forward. I mean, it's happened, of course, with America in the early, programs in America and Russia. They were all military people. And don't forget, China's space program has only been going as a manned space program for 20-odd years. And so they've been really playing catch-up on a very steep learning curve, which they've excelled at, I would say. If you just look at the achievements, it's absolutely remarkable. And so,
right.
Yeah.
So what are some of the primary focuses, if you can share with us, of this particular space mission? And after that, and follow up on that, could you share some of the achievements or some of the work that was done by the returning Shenzhou 15 crew that just recently returned back to Earth?
Yes, I mean, there's going to be a lot of extravehicular activity. They're going to go outside the space station, because a lot of the experiments, of course, they're not just inside the space station. And so there'll be a lot of extravehicular activities. They're going to be, of course, there's always running repairs and maintenance that's needed on a sophisticated laboratory like the Chinese space station. That has to happen. It goes on in parallel. And there's, I think, various new technologies are being tested as well. But there's all sorts of experiments, with microgravity. Something is they're actually going to be testing Einstein's theory of relativity through extremely accurate timing tests using atomic clocks and things. And so there's also stuff to do with agriculture in space. There's a whole range of experiments that through the United Nations call that China organized for international participants in these experiments and ideas for experiments. So there's a call, and countries, many countries in Europe and Asia and elsewhere, are collaborating with Chinese scientists in significant scientific experiments that are going to be taking place on the Chinese space station. And so these are all happening, and they'll be continuing to happening in the years to come. And so there's a lot of, even in my field of astronomy, there's things like the high energy radiation detector, which is a high energy gamma ray astrophysics experiment that my colleague Sumang at Hong Kong U is now no longer there. He's now running his own space company called Origin Space. Because of COVID. But, there's next year, there's going to be an incredibly exciting launch of something called Zhengtian, which is the Chinese equivalent of the Hubble Space Telescope, which is a 2-meter UV telescope, going to be in an orbit similar to that of the Chinese space station. So Taikonauts can go out and repair it and replace instruments, do things like that. But the key difference with HST, it has a field of view more than 300 times larger than the HST.
Oh,
so
wow.
it'll be able to scan vast areas of the sky at HST resolutions to get vast amounts of data with a 2.5 gigapixel camera over the next 10 years, going to be able to look at about 40% of the entire sky. I mean, it's just unbelievable. The mind boggles. I mean, I'm a wide field astronomer myself, so I'm going to be very excited to try to work with some Chinese colleagues to get access to this incredible facility next year.
So there's a lot of different cutting edge incorporating of a lot of different technologies, whether it's artificial intelligence and robotics. So these all more exponentially being more and more incorporated into different projects of the space station. Is that correct?
Yes, I mean, 3D printing in space, of course, robotics. I mean, we have robotic arms already on the space station, and all things that, if you go out for EVAs at the moment with humans, in the future you might be able to do complicated EVA maneuvers and work with robots in space as well. You don't have to put humans at risk so much. So all kinds of things are going to be tested and prototyped and looked at and experimented on in this wonderful space-based laboratory.
Right. Professor, I'm going to pause you right there real quick while we go for a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Professor Parker.
Right back here.
Take tune. Welcome back to Talk the Walk. I'm speaking with Hong Kong University professor Quentin Parker. Professor Parker, I wanted you to share with the audience a little bit about what the HKU Lab for Space is about and the scope of the Institute's cooperation, both across, I know you guys do a lot of collaboration and cooperation across the border as well. So can you just share a little bit about the Institute's work?
Thank you. Yes, the Laboratory of Space Research is basically a free and open association of like-minded scientists, technologists, and engineers, actually. There's no fee to join. The application process is, may I be a member, please? And I'll say, well, yes, if you really want to be and contribute to our mission, then you're very welcome. So we're a group of people that cover a broad base of activities from planetary sciences, with people like Joe Michalski, who works on Mars, and people like that. Bin Zhang, who works on atmospheric physics around the Earth, and myself, who works in late-stage cell evolution, and other people that work in high-energy physics. So we cover a broad range of activities and remote sensing as well. And we basically very egalitarian in the way I've set it up. So people are treated with respect. So it doesn't matter if the cleaner or the boss, if everybody has a voice and everybody is made to feel welcome and everybody's opinion matters. And it's created a family atmosphere that works very well in terms of people being motivated to actually contribute to our activities and want to be part of what the LSR is about. And what we're about is excellence, excellence in our research, excellence in our outreach activities, excellence in our educational activities as well, because I'm a teacher as well, and I lecture and I look after students. And in fact, the LSR has an incredibly strong internship program, which we've been running successfully for the last 5 years, and it's grown every year. Now, I think this year we've got 29 students. Last year we had 21, which is a record. And I don't think we can take any more. We've run out of supervisors. But we don't even advertise this. It's just word of mouth. They just found out about us, and we take them on for between 2 weeks and 3 months, depending. And they can be undergraduates, or they can be from high schools, not just from Hong Kong, but from around the world. We've got somebody from Kenya here at the moment. We've got somebody from St. Andrews University coming in. They from all over the world. In the past, we've had many students from the University of Chicago until COVID happened.
Right.
And local schools too. So we're very active in looking out for our wider community through outreach. We ran a program called Business Economy for Space Technology, which is a CubeSat program. We ran across 23 high schools in Hong Kong last year, prototyping ideas for CubeSat. That's incredibly exciting. That went very well. And so there's all sorts of things we get up to. But fundamentally, we're about astrophysical and high-energy physics research.
Right, and you mentioned the outreach importance, and there's also been a campaign by the central government in promoting space exploration, particularly among the youth. And over the years, as you're aware, you've had taikonauts come visit Hong Kong. You've had exhibits, including with the moon rock as well. So can you talk about the significance of that sort of outreach by the central government in such a broad national sort of campaign, and how the significance of that for the future generations?
Yeah, I think the central government, the mainland government, has been doing a very good job of trying to engage the young people of of the nation of China, including the special administrative regions as well, which Hong Kong is one, into their great national science endeavors, not just space science and space exploration and astrophysics, but other areas, like quantum computing and AI and robotics and nanotechnology and biotechnology, and all these things are making tremendous strides. And of course, the way they make these strides, if you have a workforce that is educated, switched on scientifically, with a scientific method and training. And so STEM education is at the heart of that, of course, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and I'm a great advocate of that myself, and have been for most of my career. It's incredibly important for the future. And so, yes, they've done a very good job. And the fact that we had a press release by John Lee, our chief executive, some months ago, last September, about the wonderful opportunity for Hong Kong to have some taikonauts, was a great green light. And this is a massive green light from the government to Hong Kong about this area. And what I would like to see a bit more of now is the Hong Kong government itself recognizing the green light, the open door that is there, and walking through it a bit more rapidly, and taking a few things with it along the way. So I think there's tremendous opportunities in what people call the new space economy. Now, all of these big blue ribbon activities, the space station, the missions to the moon and Mars, and soon moon bases and all the rest of it, are fantastic, large-scale national endeavors. But around all of that, you have an economy, a new space economy, which globally will be worth about $1 trillion by the end of this decade. And that's in all the commercialization aspects of new space. All the satellites going up there, nearly all of them, are about monetizing data of one kind or another, data that the satellites create, whether it's remote sensing data or sensor data or photons, or looking at the Earth in various ways, looking out space, whatever it is, to understand things better on Earth and to monetize it, whether it's television and communications, and the internet. These things are worth a lot of money. And so I think there are tremendous opportunities for Hong Kong in the new space economy too, for which you'll need a properly trained STEM-educated workforce to take.
What are some edges that Hong Kong has just off the bat with regards to this new space economy development that you're referring to?
Yeah, for me personally, there are a few big things that are important, and I think the first is that it's not what people think that Hong Kong is going to become a huge manufacturing center for satellites, etc. I don't think it will be. I think there'll be some of that. But I think that the major role that Hong Kong can play is through its financial capacities as a major center in the world for finance, for trade, for IPOs, and for regulation, and for compliance, and for regulatory framework that exists. I think it's world-beating. And I think that, in terms of investment into the new space economy, with the fintech expertise and the regulatory framework and legal framework that there is in Hong Kong, it can be a conduit for passing investment sums, huge investment sums, into the right kinds of startup companies in new space, some of which will be based in Hong Kong, others might be more global. And I think Hong Kong can play a major role there. And of course, the other thing I'd like to mention is that Hong Kong has 5 universities ranked in the top 100 in the world. I mean, my own university says immodestly is the highest rank, but we have sister universities like Hong Kong UST and HKU that are ranked in the top 50, and other great universities like PolyU and CityU ranked in the top 100. So we have 5 universities in the top 100 in the city of less than 8 million. I mean, that's very rare in any city anywhere in the world. So I look upon, Hong Kong as like a mini superpower in tertiary education, punching way above our weight. And I think that's another strong piece of our armory as a city that can make a difference in this area.
And you mentioned the tertiary education advantage in that regard. Have you noticed an increase in the exchange and free flow of academic exchanges across border? I understand you recently went to Hefei for the China Space Day event. Yes. So could you just talk about that and just talk about generally your expectations on the cross-border exchange of ideas with regards to the space exploration?
I find that the mainland is a very generous place when it looks towards Hong Kong, SAR. And there are genuine opportunities for people like me and other scientists to engage more closely with their mainland colleagues and partners and create new programs. It's a two-way process. I'm a foreigner. I'm not Chinese, obviously, but I've been made to feel very welcome in the mainland, and I think it's genuine. I get the feeling of genuine interest in collaboration and in mutual endeavour for mutual benefit, and the synergies that are there that can be exploited. And Hong Kong is still in some ways a halfway house. It can look to the west and look a bit to the east because of our unique situation, and I think we can make the most of that, and it can benefit both the rest of the world and China in the way we play that game. So there are more and more opportunities opening up for scientists in many fields across the border, not just in the GBA, but further afield. Yes, I was invited to Hefei and gave a presentation and had a roundtable discussion as well. I was very happy to be a part of that. And things are continuing like that. More opportunities are coming. And I think we should be grabbing those opportunities. I think sometimes Hong Kong people can be a little bit reluctant to take a risk. And to try something. But I'm more of the opinion that, I don't mind trying and failing. If I try 5 things and I fail 4 times but succeed once, it's that one thing that successes that people remember. They don't remember the failures, they only remember the successes. So
that's true.
It's worth having a go,
Spoken like a true astrophysicist, Can you talk about, we touched on this a little bit earlier in our discussion, but can you talk about the country's space program's collaboration with other nations? And I know that they've been very vocal over the years about its willingness and the importance of joint collaborations with other countries, and they've signed hundreds of MOUs with other countries with regards to different projects. So could you just talk about the importance of that and how significant it is for Beijing to do that?
Well, I think it shows an open-handed internationalist approach. And if you read the white paper on space that China released a couple of years ago, you will see that it's there in black and white about what their intent is. And if you tend to see something written in black and white in any official paperwork from China, you can pretty much put your money on it that that's what they actually mean, because they actually deliver. I mean, some people say one thing and do another, but I think you'll find mostly with China, they commit something to paper, then that's pretty much a real intent, and that tends to actually happen. So these collaborations exist, they're real, they're growing all the time. Of course, the geopolitics at the moment are a little bit sophisticated and complicated and not necessarily moving in a good direction at the moment. I think we need to wind back on that, get rid of the rhetoric, get back to fundamentally looking at what's in the best interests of humans on this planet. I just read yesterday that an area the size of Switzerland of pristine rainforest was destroyed again this year. And so, that makes me very sad and upset and worried for the future, that the way to tackle these things is through scientific education and through international collaboration to find solutions, because no one nation state has the answer to all these problems. It's only through, perspectives from different outlooks, from different sides in different countries that we can actually put together, a holistic view of what's going wrong with our planet in terms of climate change, and try to do something about it. Stop talking and start acting before it's too late. So, I think science has a major role to play, and international collaboration in science is a very important role to play in all of that. Space has a role there too, of course, because the scientific satellites up in space that are monitoring the Earth can see the degradation, can see the deforestation, the desertification, the change in the temperature of the Earth's oceans, the melting of the ice caps. All of this is monitored from space, and all that data goes into the models and into the action that's needed to try to avert the worst of the catastrophe in climate that's unfolding day by day, it seems.
Professor Quentin Parker, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. That's all the time we have. I'll see you same time next week. Goodbye.